Hello folks, John Cifelli here with WeatherNJ. Part 2 of our two-part winter storm for early February begins tonight. Part 1 this morning was a little bit of a letdown. Snowfall totals a little bit lower than I predicted. I think the highest I saw was somewhere around 4 inches of snow in Sussex County. Some of the best forcing and the best lift moved off to the north, but we did see a lot of travel concerns and a lot of school closures in the northern half of the state. So not a complete letdown, and some of those same locations are going to have even more wintry weather problems to deal with tomorrow. Right now you can see next to me the water vapor loop, beautiful mid-latitude cyclone, really blossoming. You can see a lot of good moisture advection coming from the Gulf of Mexico, moving right up through the Mississippi Valley and right towards us here in New Jersey. So a lot of moisture to work with in this one, and this one very similar to part 1 last night. It's going to have some temperature problems, at least aloft. So we will get all into that first. Taking a look at the surface temperatures across New Jersey. This is as of 5 o'clock. Temperatures generally in the mid-30s for the southern half of the state, but once you get north of Route 1, really, we drop down into the mid-20s and even some teens and some lower 20s in Warren, Morris, and Sussex counties. So definitely setting the stage for some very, very cold, below average temperatures for tonight. And that's going to lay the framework for some pretty significant icing for the early part of tomorrow and in midday tomorrow the further north you go. Taking a look right now at current observations across New Jersey is what we call METAR reports, and the coding is expressed into symbols that I'll explain to you here. Anywhere where you see the horizontal lines, that's fog, and the fog with the V through it that you can see out here in southeast Pennsylvania, that's freezing fog. And some of the things that looks like goggles, that's haze. But you see freezing fog here in eastern Pennsylvania, southeast Pennsylvania. The little squiggle with the dot is freezing drizzle. So it's already some moisture already out there. It's been a very damp day, and sort of what you get here is what we call rhyming, where you just sort of get an accumulation on cold surfaces, even though nothing's precipitating. It's just that mist and that fog in the air that turns to ice when it makes contact with these below freezing surfaces. So the framework definitely being laid for some significant icing tonight. We're already seeing some of it with just the moisture in the air. One thing I wanted to show here, this is the relative humidity at 700 millibars and the wind vectors at 700 millibars. You can see, similar to the last storm, the Gulf is open for business. A lot of wind vectors pointing from the south to the north. Do have a southerly component coming off the Gulf of Mexico. All the dark greens, that's heavy moisture. So a lot of moisture making its way from the Gulf into the Mississippi Valley. And you can see the same thing at 850 millibars. Again, strong southerly winds, a lot of moisture flow, a lot of moisture advection in 925 millibars, much of the same. So we're saturated really in everywhere east of the Mississippi, from the surface up to 700 millibars, so a lot of moisture to work with, and I do think that we'll see some pretty significant QPF totals. We'll get to that in a sec. One thing I wanted to show here, this is the evolution of our storm. You can sort of get an idea for the storm track here. It starts out at the beginning. You'll see the surface low down here, in the Arkansas area. You can see the surface low track up through the Mississippi Valley into the northern Ohio Valley before a coastal transfer takes place pretty much over New Jersey or to our north. And what that does is it brings the surface low, the primary surface low, to our west, which keeps us in a pretty southerly wind flow, which again is going to help to sort of scour out that cold. And the low pressure center aloft at 850 millibar, at 700 millibars, is much more rigorous, and also to our west. So we're going to see a lot of strong southerly winds aloft. At the surface, however, you can notice that the lowest the pressure really gets is 1,000 millibars. So we see 1008, 1004, and this closed ring in between it, which signifies 1,000 millibars. So not a very strong surface low pressure. And because of that, we don't get the cold air being removed from the coastal plain at the very lowest levels. We don't get strong southerly winds. We don't get strong easterly winds off the ocean, because this really isn't a very strong low pressure center. And there's really no strong high pressure off to the north or to the east to create that strong pressure gradient that you need for those stronger winds to form in between the two. You can see here at the beginning with high pressure at 1048 over the Dakotas and low pressure here over Illinois and Indiana. At the beginning of this feed, you see stronger winds here over Illinois and towards the Great Lakes of 20 to 25 knots at the surface, but you never really see that over New Jersey as the storm makes its approach. Most of the stronger winds stay off over the water, sort of where the coastal low takes over the power, the energy from the surface. So never see the strong southerly winds at the surface, and because of that, the cold air hangs on longer at the surface than it does aloft. Now this is a shot of the 850 millibar map. This is 1 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, and here you can see these are 60 knot winds, 65 knot winds, and some embedded 70 knot winds. So at 850 millibars, this is a little ways up in the atmosphere, maybe a mile or two. Here you can see winds are much stronger, much more significant, and they're strong out of the south. So what this means is that any cold aloft will be scoured out very quickly, and that really gives way to more of a freezing rain or a sleet profile than it would for a snow profile. Snow really won't be an impact at all in any part of New Jersey for this particular event. And as we go out in time, this is 7 o'clock in the morning, and you can see those stronger southeasterly winds, southwesterly winds rather, but again, still 70 knot winds right over New Jersey. And as we go to 10 a.m., moving off to our east, and we can see even some 80 knot winds in there. So very strong southerly winds aloft, so the cold air definitely loses its grip aloft. This is the current 925 millibar analysis. You can see temperatures are right around freezing along the Route 1 corridor. Anywhere where it's blue is below freezing, anywhere where it's red is above freezing. So, but again, you can see the direction of the wind barbs is pointing pretty much south to north, so a lot of warm air advection on its way, high pressure losing its grip as this low pressure at 925 makes its way to the east and to our immediate west. We do stay in a southerly wind flow, we do see the warm air aloft, and that's why we're going to see, again, the cold air scoured out. This is the total QPF by 7 o'clock in the morning, so this is all the moisture that's fallen, all the precipitation that's fallen over New Jersey by 7 o'clock in the morning. You can see generally looks like 3/10 to 4/10, almost 5/10 of an inch of liquid equivalent. Some of this will be sleet, especially north of Route 78, but a lot of this is rain, and exactly where that freezing rain to plain rain line sets up is the million-dollar question. And what I have here is the temperature sounding. This is for Camden area, 7 o'clock in the morning. You can see right at the very surface temperatures just barely above freezing. You move a little further up in the atmosphere at 925, that's about half a mile up. You can see temperatures are about +5 Celsius. You move to 850 millibars, they're about +7, +8. So very warm air aloft. This is a freezing rain to rain profile. That's at Camden. Now at the same time, we move a little further northeast. This is the Edison, Somerville area, and you can see we do have a layer that's below freezing just above the surface, and the surface itself is just below freezing. So at 7 o'clock in the morning, this is the North American model's interpretation that basically the Route 1 corridor will be the battleground. We're talking Trenton, Princeton, New Brunswick, Edison. This is where we will see freezing rain going to plain rain right around 7 o'clock in the morning. But by now, the damage is already done, as we will have had freezing rain since basically 1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. So a couple hours of some light freezing rain, and then giving way to plain rain in the latter part of the morning, the further north you go. So this is my total accumulation map. What I'm expecting is less than a quarter inch of ice from Trenton up through the Route 1 corridor out towards northern Monmouth County. And then the further north you go, this is where the cold air hangs on a little bit longer. The 202 corridor, a little bit of sleet, giving way to freezing rain, looking for a little over a half an inch of ice accrual. And north of there, it really could be even a bigger deal. Crippling ice storm possibility for Sussex, Morris, Warren counties, northern Passaic County. I do think we could see up to up to 1 inch of ice accrual after 1 inch of sleet accrual. And actually that sleet coming ahead of time might be a little bit of a savior from having really crippling icing conditions on the road. This is the one last thing that I wanted to show. This is the total QPF accumulation. So this is for the entire event, from essentially 1 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday to 1 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. And the North American model, usually the wetter model, shows about 0.6, 0.7 You look at the GFS, which is usually the drier model, and you can see some embedded areas of over an inch of liquid. So definitely a very moisture-laden system. We saw that on the RH fields. We saw that on the water vapor loop. So a big deal, and could be sort of thing where you're not really moving too far for a day or two. So if you do have to hit the road, please be careful. Take your time. Give yourself hours if you're driving throughout northern New Jersey tomorrow. And even if you're in parts of central New Jersey, it might just look wet, but it's very likely icy. So do be careful and stay safe. And I will talk to you next time. Warm regards.